Welcome to the Real Health and Nutrition Podcast, where real talk meets real health. I am Matthew Rugoni,
My name is Max Dennehy.
your dietitian duo, ready to have a chat about the crazy world of health and nutrition and performance. What is our topic for today, Max?
So we have two main topics for today. The first topic we're going to talk about is DEXAs. So we're going to have a chat about, the ins and outs of DEXAs, go through everything we know, and then that'll kind of be the main subtopic, the first subtopic, and then the main topic we'll be talking about a little thing very near and dear to my heart called 1%ers, and it's going to be focusing on how to improve your health for 1%ers. So what this means will be small things you can do to make a decent impact into your life to improve your health outcomes and overall health markers. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about for today. Essentially, the purpose of today's class is to come to some sort of consensus. So Matt and I, we've thought of some points separately, and we're going to come together, have a little chat about them, probably disagree on some points, and you, the viewer, can decide what you agree with, who you agree with, and what you like. And I think that's about it. Let's get stuck into it, Matto.
Sounds good, dude. Sounds good.
Take us through. So we left podcast number 2, because it's number 3 now.
Mm-hmm.
We left that talking a little bit about DEXAs, and we probably didn't go into enough detail as what we'd like to have. And we spoke about it. We spoke about it a little bit, and we thought we'd worth to go into a bit more detail about it. So firstly, let's just clarify. We were talking about different modes of essentially measuring your body composition. Is that right? We're talking about, BIA, the underwater weighing, DEXA, ultrasound. Is there any others that I've missed?
I think they're pretty much the main ones. Look, there's skin folds of the actual caliper variety, as well as your laser eyes, which tend to be quite accurate in my personal experience. There tends to be a lot of them tend to be over marketed in terms of the best or the industry standard, or the this, that, the best bang for buck, and whatever you have. It really does depend on what your preference is and then what your understanding of the literature is. So, of course, there's many factors that go into a scenario. We definitely have our own opinions. Max, do you have a preference for which one you think is the gold standard?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting question, the whole concept of gold standard. And it's something that we really need to think about clearly, because gold standard versus actually good is something that we really need to distinguish, because it's like you could have the equivalent would be, if I was talking about, if we're looking at the alpha, this is such a fucking weird analogy, but I need to come up with one on the spot, I guess. If you had that, is it Alpha Centauri? I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. I love my
the galaxy.
I love my astronomy so much. Nah, it's not the galaxy. It's the solar. It's closest sun to us. Okay. It's actually a cluster of suns. It's actually 3 suns, but that's besides the point. We don't need to get technical. If we were looking at the planets on those stars, and we were like, oh yeah, this planet's the gold standard, what goes into people's heads is that must be a really fucking good planet to live on. Must have clean water, must have beautiful temperatures, fresh air, ozone, all that sort of shit. So you'd be thinking, epic, this is where we're going to move to one day. Gold standard doesn't mean it's actually good. The gold standard for the best planet on Alpha Centauri is probably an absolute shithole that has like 47 hurricanes and earthquakes every day and volcanoes and everything. So absolutely probably not, right? So very interesting how we can manipulate words, and how we kind of because our association with the word gold standard inherently means good, that we can be sort of brought into a direction that we actually shouldn't have been brought in. So that was a little bit of a tangent to say that just because something's called a gold standard doesn't mean that you should inherently write it off as being this is an amazing thing. Do you have any idea? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't know how much DEXA can be off by. Do you know what percentage DEXA can be off by, Matt?
It's been a hot minute since I looked at the data. I think it does range depending on what most recent literature you've looked at, and then the kind of machine that's being used, and the manufacturer. From my understanding, it can be up from anywhere to 2 to 5% in terms of just measuring your muscle mass difference. So that can range quite a bit, and I'm definitely, don't quote me on that kind of scenario, but from my understanding, it's not like it's accurate to the actual decimal point or anything along those lines. There tend to be a little bit of variance in terms of how it's actually measuring the muscle mass and if it's confusing muscle for organ or something similar.
Yeah. So look, it's off by a decent amount. It's definitely decently accurate, but it also is off by a decent amount as well. But yeah, I think for me, there's always a few questions I have. I think I have three main questions for it all, which is that first one that I was talking about with the gold standard as to what gold standard actually really means. The second one I always think about with DEXA was, actually, I'll just do a side point real quick. I think something interesting I learned was that I'm not sure how true this is and whether this has actually been debunked or changed or, they've impacted the DEXA scans. But I do remember that hearing something about how there was a bunch of people who did a study where they did it at like 9 a.m. Let's say they did the DEXA scan, and then at 10 a.m. they'd drunk, or 11 a.m. they'd drunk 3, 4, whatever many liters of water, and the DEXA scan showed up as them gaining muscle. Do you know about anything whether that's actually true or that's like, it could be a myth?
Yeah, I haven't heard of it personally, but it wouldn't put it past me. I think it's very difficult for from my personal awareness for muscle and water to not be often measured as a very similar sort of tissue. Of course, the water that we ingest has to go somewhere. Usually it stays in a bloodstream. Some of it goes into the muscle. Some of it goes through in our lovely GI tract. I think there's a lot of variables that go along in terms of actually measuring the amount of total muscle you have. So of course, if we look at the scenario of if we supplement with creatine, our total muscle mass tends to increase from a muscle perspective, like a muscle growth perspective. But in that short term, we actually gain a lot of muscle mass in the form of water flowing into the actual muscles. And I had a chat with a client recently about this one. He had experienced some little bit of weight gain, and it was a very interesting conversation to have. We're trying to sort of peel back the layers, and we've really got to the point of, okay, well, you actually just started with supplementing with creatine and you've gained 4 kilos in the last 2 weeks or so. It seems to me that most likely nothing else has really changed. It's probably going to be the water mass shuttling in, because of course creatine acts like an attractant to water. Yeah, like a sponge, I guess. Well, your muscles are already sponges. It makes them even spongier.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because muscles are such a high percent. I think it's like 87% made up of water. That it's super hard to differentiate for the DEXA between water and muscle. So yeah, that's something that I really like to put out there. But my first main question of when I have people coming to me, they're saying, Max, I'd like to do a DEXA, or I want to know this, I want to know that. My first immediate concern is, hold on, let's just check to see that you're not going to be really negatively affected by this decision. Because what happened to me, and I'm sure what's happened to a lot of people, is that because these things are off by a little bit, and there's a decently high chance of you doing this, is that January the 1st, you get your DEXA scan and you see that you're 25% body fat, and it actually underestimated a little bit. You're actually around about 28% body fat in fact. If you work really hard for 3 months or 12 weeks or so, you're like, oh, I feel like I've lost so much weight. I've definitely lost a lot of fat. I look different. I feel better, feel more energetic. Everything just is amazing. You're super happy with yourself, super proud of yourself. And then you get that DEXA done in 12 weeks and you're only 24% body fat. But this time it's actually overestimated you, and you're actually 22% or whatever it is. So the actual loss is like around about 5%, 6% or whatever it is. But it looks like you've only lost 1 or 2% if you just compare the two DEXAs. And boy, is that demotivating and disheartening. And especially gets you thinking of like, oh, wait, have I just lost a bunch of muscle? What's actually going on? Like, I must be doing something wrong. And then you think, then you probably go down some conspiracy parts of science is bullshit and let's cop on keto. But that's besides the point. The thing for me is that it can be super disheartening for some people. And I'd really want to make sure that people understand that these things are inaccurate and these things can be off before you do it. Because if you put the world on it and you put all this weight into this one thing, then if that's the be all and end all and it shows you results that you don't want to see, then your motivation to get up tomorrow and keep on doing the thing is going to be reduced.
Beautifully said, Max. Beautifully said. I think that applies even more so for additional scanners and weight tools like your BIA or your something similar, even if you're just using a standard set of scales, your weight reduction doesn't necessarily mean that it's correlated with total fat reduction. There's a lot of scenarios that can go on. Look, you could have gone on keto and now you haven't realized that the carbohydrate loss from your muscles has now decreased the total water mass that's inside of your muscles, thus decreasing total weight. Hasn't been fat that you've lost, well, majority of anyways. It's most likely been just a rapid decrease in total water weight inside of your body.
Definitely, yeah. Heaps of glycogen coming out is going to result in you losing body weight on the scale, but not necessarily body fat. And that's why I think, I know, Matt, you and I, we're not perfect at it, but we do try and differentiate between saying body fat, losing body fat versus losing body weight.
Absolutely,
definitely
something to work on, but it's also quite just trying to be acknowledging of people and their of course their sensitivity to certain topics. Fat as a word tends to be quite loaded. You say fat in a scenario and everyone starts to perk up the ears. Oh, what's going on? Like they've mentioned the F word. Ooh, scary. But it's more so just being realistic. Well, what kind of tissue is it? We can say adipose tissue, but a lot of our clientele and most people in the population won't understand what adipose really means. And then we're kind of missing the point in getting that across. So it's really trying to find a middle ground of are we using total body weight? Are we using that correctly? Are we trying to beat around the bush a little bit? Can we, of course, use the words appropriately without offending too many people? Because look, you're always going to offend someone, but how many people can we spare in the process?
Exactly. You can't please everyone, and even by trying to please everyone, you're going to annoy other people because then they look at you like a, suck ass kind of thing. So completely agree. And I think for as long as we come about it with the way that we're not using fat in a negative word, we're not making fun of people that are overweight or obese, and we're just using it as a very neutral term, then I don't think you can really argue against that. Obviously, words do matter and words do count, and that's why we specifically don't use words like adipose, because if we spoke in technical jargon, then who would want to watch this or listen to this podcast? There's a reason why we need to use words that are also going to be understood by people. So definitely understand your justification for that. Matt, my second point is around about the sort of the big one of why you're doing this. DEXA is probably, unless you could get it for free, I'm not sure how you could, but if we've got so many tools at our disposal that are able to give us as good a results as DEXA, not like as good to the number, but as good results in that they give us a really good indication of how our goals are going, why would people choose DEXA? Can you sort of help me understand their perspective a little bit?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting question. If we're going to put myself in my situation, for example, I'm quite curious by nature. I like to understand everything that's going on. I like to take measurements of some things just to see baselines and not necessarily over-track certain things, but I like to establish what is the reality of certain situations. I've been inclined to go get a DEXA scan before just to be like, okay, well, I think I'm around X percentage body fat. Can I actually confirm this, and how accurate is that confirmation? So I've been inclined to get one before. The only real reason I haven't is because they're bloody expensive, but maybe we can address that in a couple of YouTube videos or something similar. It's more so I think people want to...
They are expensive.
Sorry, please go on.
No, they are expensive, yeah. I haven't looked into it properly. There might be better ways of, cheaper ways of getting it though, to be fair.
Yeah. Last time I checked, they're like $500-ish. But damn. I think there is a cheap way of getting it, and that's putting yourself in a study, but you've got to be subjected to the amount of, let's say, interventions that the study contains. So
yeah, exactly. You're going to be forced to eat like 20 bananas a day or some shit.
Yeah, 20 bananas a day, or you've got to have like one leg bound up and then bedridden for a week or something like that. I mean, that would be extremely interesting. Exactly. I think the data that we get from those kind of studies are invaluable, but in the reality tends to be quite the barrier of entry, and then people tend to lean towards more of like the bioelectrical impedance scanners and things like that.
Yeah. So, I think that's a good point, is that it's expensive and it's probably something to do it. So I guess my main point is that we've got a whole bunch of things, right? We've got you can weigh yourself every morning. You can take measurements around your body. You can take photos. You can just look at generally how you're feeling, how clothes are fitting. There's a bunch of different things that you can look at, which are really good metrics to help you know whether you're going in the right direction or not. And this is, just to clarify, we are specifically talking about people wanting to change their body composition. You know, we can talk about health and all that sort of stuff, but this is really different from this sphere. And that's just because if you're trying to have a healthy mindset and healthy relationship with food, you're not going to be obsessing about how you look, because they kind of, is the right word juxtaposition? They kind of oppose each other, really, at the end of the day. If you look at someone who has a really good, healthy relationship with food and their body, they're not obsessing over how they look. So this is a whole nother beast. But yeah, for me, why? Like, we've got all these tools that are free, that are at our disposal, that take 2 seconds to do, that are pretty good and accurate, and also give you a positive mindset about things. They don't. It's not the be all and end all. Like, you can't wake up on the day before your DEXA feel really happy, and then the day after you feel really sad because you got a bad result. Overall, you know, you can see things going in the right direction. The photos are looking better, and you're just generally happy over the course of the time. Whereas your mood is solely dependent on this one result. Does that make sense, what I just said?
Yeah. So you're referring to generally taking photos every now and then, measuring the kind of clothes that we're in terms of how we're fitting in them, how we're generally feeling in our total progress, that kind of thing, compared to having a number that dictates our response and our progress, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it is similar to the whole thinking of, because we're going to be speaking one day about our thoughts on BMI and what our opinions are on that. I think we spoke about that.
Episode 2, I believe, or something similar.
Yeah, anyway,
have a listen.
We will be speaking about that. We will be speaking about that one day in quite a decent amount of depth. We'll be probably dedicate a whole cast to it, I reckon. And it's similar to the thinking of that, why are people getting caught up on whether they're happy or sad around a single number? And that's the exact same way I feel about this DEXA stuff. Why are you getting caught up about being happy or sad around a single number? It just seems crazy to me, especially if you've got a whole bunch of evidence that was making you happy, that you felt like it was actually giving you good results. Now, like, I know the obvious argument is, well, Max, like, I don't care how they feel. I just care about how they actually are. You know what I mean? Like, you can feel happy, but if you're not actually making progress, then that doesn't matter. Yeah, which is a fine argument. But the reality is, DEXA isn't the be all and end all, and it very well could have been inaccurate. So I think for me, I would strongly suggest, if I had anyone coming to me, that don't worry about the DEXAs. Take photos for me, do measurements for me, hop on the scale consistently for me, and do all the things. Track your calories for me. Just notice how your clothes are fitting and feeling. Notice things that people are saying to you, and the comments you're getting. There's so many different things that will determine whether you're actually seeing changes or not, outside of a single number from a DEXA. That's going to be way more important, in my opinion. And way more accurate.
I tend to agree. Yeah, absolutely. So I think in isolation, the single number from the DEXA isn't necessarily the best. Sorry, have I taken your point? Go for it, Max.
No, yes, that is. I think very similar point. If you compared one of those variables, like just the weighing the scales versus the DEXA, of course the DEXA is going to be better, right? Give you more information. But when you combine all the variables together, weighing plus tracking plus clothes plus measurements plus photos plus everything together, I personally believe that produces a more accurate, more consistent result than the DEXA does.
Mic drop on that one. That was great. Yeah, absolutely loved it. That was literally nail on the head with that scenario, so I can't really comment too much. I think is that a
clippable moment right there?
Absolutely. That's definitely going to be a clip. Yeah, I was hoping to like smash one out in this episode, but you've nailed it once again. For people who are listening and still curious, what even is a DEXA? It stands for dual energy X-ray absorbed geometry. It's kind of like a little scan, little X-ray thing. You kind of lie down, generally goes in, costs a little bit of money. What's free is your phones on your photo, the topics that Max has mentioned, how you're feeling in clothes, tracking calories to a certain extent, if that's appropriate or not. There's a few different measurements in terms of how we're actually going through things. If you're able to do a DEXA like once every 2 weeks, then absolutely it's going to be a way better measurement. But of course, we need to acknowledge how much total X-rays are you getting and if that's appropriate for your total health. So look, that's a whole nother ball bag, and I'm not qualified enough to have a chat about that kind of area just yet. So we'll have maybe a conversation later down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And it's a really interesting. I just thought about that. That was a really good point. Is that if I had a multi-millionaire client who owned a DEXA, right? For firstly, you'd probably do just as like what you said. Let's do the most we can do whilst being in the safe amount of radiation. So however many that is, once every 3 months, once every 6 months, whatever it is. And then I would nearly be like to him, or like that person, him or her. I'd be like, well, I don't want you to tell me. I don't want you to see what those results are. I want you to literally get the page, turn it upside down and then mail it to me or take a photo of it or whatever it is for me. And so you can't see anything. Because genuinely, I think the negative emotions that you get from that and the demotivation you get from that is like way worse than the upsides of it, I reckon, in my opinion.
That's an interesting point you've mentioned there. Would you say the same applies to weighing yourself on the scales?
No, I think because it's not so far apart, right? Because you think if you go back to like there's 3 months apart, I say it's 3 months or 6 months apart, right? If you look back from January the 1st to April the 1st, and you're like, I just wasted that 3 months. Nothing changed. Nothing got better. I'm the exact same person. Why didn't I just sit on my ass for 3 months? That's a big difference whereas if you just get one bad scale, like one bad weigh on the scale, so it's like, oh, well, fix it tomorrow, can always weigh myself tomorrow kind of thing, and that's the reality, is it? Because it's every day, because it's always changing, always present. You can kind of continue with it, and it's so frequent. So, and you always get the feedback, right? If you're weighing yourself every day, you don't get a one shock. Like if you weighed yourself on January the 1st and then April the 1st, I'd be saying the exact same thing. You would probably get that shock. You'd be like, oh, no, that's awful. Whereas if you weigh yourself every day, you're going to have a pretty good idea of where you're going to actually end up on April the 1st. Does that make sense?
I think it does, Max. I think it does. So if this is more so an isolation thing, it's like, okay, we've got multiple data points from a DEXA. However, we're still not tracking on the daily, the weekly, even the monthly basis potentially. It's more so once every now and then we're getting a DEXA. So more so the feedback of how we're actually going through our lifestyle, our nutrition, our performance, our exercise. That feedback isn't necessarily consistent or often enough to provide valuable data and adjustments to our regime.
Yes. Yeah. I tend to agree 100%. If, for example, if we could live in an alternate universe where we could cure cancer, and so that you'd never be able to have any issues from the radiation, and you also had access to a DEXA and you could do it every day, we're doing it every day. 100% we're doing it every day. Yeah. Because then those fluctuations don't matter, right? Then you just have like your day-to-day fluctuations like you do on the scales, but you got the general direction, right? But you don't see that when you do too far apart. It's like the same as like if you weighed yourself on a high day if you weighed yourself once a week and the first week was a high day and the first week was a low day and the second week was a high day, looks like you haven't lost anything, but you have, That's the point. My last final point about DEXAs is that, which is another why question. The first one was like, why would you do it if we've got these other options? And the second one is, why do we even care? Which I think is a really interesting one, because it's like kind of just shitting on people for caring and being curious, like you said. But for me, it's just crazy. Why do we care about these arbitrary numbers? Are you able to sort of help me understand that, Matt?
That's a tricky question. I think, why do we care about anything, really? If we're looking at DEXAs in particular, I think, why do we care about specifically finding the percentage body fat that we are or something like that? So I think it's more of a comforting, potentially, number that we're looking for. Whether we get that number or not, if that impacts our mental health and our ability to maintain what our current trajectory is, either good or bad, I think there's mixed scenarios that can go along in that situation. So
yeah,
I think people are generally looking for affirmations and reassurance that what they're doing is the correct thing, and or potentially an excuse to not implement lifestyle and dietary changes to reach certain goals. Remember to check the link in the description or our website for our consultations. Back to it.
Okay. I feel like that could be a bit of a hot take right there.
Potentially.
Yeah, interesting. So, yeah, okay, yeah, because I guess I do like your original question, which is like, why do we care about anything, right? Like, what's the point of life? We can always bring it back to that, which is a pretty fail-safe way to end discussions, which is always fun. I think that's interesting. I guess for me, when I look at things and I look at people who want to take DEXAs and interrupt me if I'm straying too far from like what you think is true. But I always say most people that are taking DEXAs are taking them, or in our case, or in our people we would be coaching, or I would be coaching, would be doing it because they want to improve their body composition and want to look more muscular, lose body fat, mixture of the both, or just look better overall, or look more toned if you're a middle-aged woman. No, that's epic. That's my favorite word ever. I want to look more toned. So yeah, that's kind of the point for me, is that like, if that's your goal, why do we care about a specific number? And I always harp on this because I learned this early on. Was it's the same for bodybuilders. You'll hear it time and time again, especially if you're in like the field and you're frequently having conversations with bodybuilders, is that they'll say, oh man, I can't wait to get to 100 kilos. Can't wait to get to 90 kilos, man. It's going to be epic. I'm going to look so good. And it's like, why that specific number? Why that
what
arbitrary
happens
number?
when it tips
What
over?
is it about? Yeah.
Is there some magic
99,
switch
you're gonna
that
look like
goes, you hit 100 kilos and now you're fucking Popeye? Like, where'd this come from?
100%. So, and it's the exact same thing with this. Why do we care about a specific body fat percentage? What if 20% on you actually looks like 10% on me? Which it could. Yeah. I'm kind of like that. Me at higher body fat percentages actually looks less because I store my body fat in different ways, right? Store it mostly in my glutes, like really like, you know, a little bit lower back as well. So
Max,
like,
you got that dumpy, abs. My guy. Unstoppable.
100% agree. So I've still got abs. If I wear a tank top, fucking hell, like my shoulders look like they're, you know, early teens. My arms are veiny as fuck, but I'm fat. I'm just fat. Yeah. So I guess my point is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what number you are, as long as you care, you feel like you're getting to a point where you're happy with how you look, or you're happier with how you look, or however it is, whatever words you want to use. But it's just the only thing that matters if you're worried about body composition and how you look is how you look. The numbers don't matter. Of course, the numbers indicate, like, you're not going to be 40 kilos and be like, yeah, I'm super muscular, man. Like, fuck yeah. Obviously, it matters, but it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Smashing it, Max. I had a question, so Maximu.
That's my rant.
I like your rant. I've now repeatedly come across either clientele or friends and family who have now owned smartwatches. And it's a very similar situation where exactly there, Mr. Max, I can tell that you're looking at, when you wake up, you roll over. I felt like, man, that sleep was so good. You roll over, I got 6 hours sleep. Oh, my day's ruined. I can't continue with anything. It's absolutely gone. That is not how it works. It's not like the watch dictates how your sleep quality was. You don't have an electroencephalograph strapped to your head and measuring every brainwave that occurs. It can't measure REM accurately, as we've seen through the studies. It can't measure non-REM accurately, as we've seen through the studies. It's merely a measure of total noise and or movement throughout the night. So that's extremely variable dependent on the person. And I guess the whole scenario of, are we letting that number dictate the exact way we feel throughout the day? Or are we just chasing that number? Because look, if I strapped your hands to handcuffs to the side of the bed, I mean, apart from our kinky times, I think it's an extremely easy way to increase your total active sleeping time on your watch, because of course you're just moving less.
Man, if you did that to me, we wouldn't sleep 1 minute. Man, could be awake all night. I love that you know the name of the thing, Matt. What's it called? Stephalograph.
Electroencephalograph.
Damn.
I'm probably actually butchering it now. You're probably going to make me do a reel of me. Be like, Matt doesn't know shit. Get the fuck out of here. But
yeah, dude, that was peak rant. I feel like this is like your first rant that ever existed. That was incredible. Yes, I'm so proud of you. That was good. That was perfectly well said. It's just awful that people look at this stuff and they base their day on it. This is the dude, that was probably the best thing. I think that was like your best minute of your life. Perfect transition. Seriously. Perfect transition, perfect rant. Everything was just amazing. So completely agree. This is exactly what we're talking about. Why are you caring about what a number says if you feel good, right? You wake up, you feel super rested. Oof, man, that was a killer sleep. God, I had such vivid dreams that I just was dreaming the whole night. Incredible sleep. Oh yeah, didn't sleep for as long as I thought. But boy, I feel good. And you look at your watch and it says sleep score -4. It's like, fuck. Maybe not. And then you feel like, shit, oh, no, I am tired. Yeah, I should probably get a couple of coffees in. Yeah. No, I might call in sick for work. No. Yeah, I might break up with my missus, actually. Yeah.
That's a massive spiral. I guarantee it's happened before.
But yeah, it's like that, and it's just awful. Just base it on how you feel, how you look. Base it on things that are actually real in reality rather than what technology is telling you, which is wrong, especially when technology is wrong. Maybe in 500 years when the technology is actually accurate and right, sure, listen to it more. But for the time being, when it's trash and it knows nothing, well, it kind of does know nothing because it's a lot of the time it's actually working against you. So it kind of does know nothing.
I think it totally depends on how you're using it.
I disagree. Probably a lot of the time it is working for you, but it's for that occasional chance when it does work against you. That's the issue. You know what I mean? Like that 1 in 10 days when it's off, and it's off the wrong way. Because like there's some days when it's going to be off and it's off the right way, right? You felt like you had a shit sleep. You woke up like, oh fuck. You wake up, you turn on you look at the phone like, oh man, I got to work today. And you check your watch, and it's like, hell yeah, I slept good. and then you get up and you do your day. So it could be off in a good way, but it also those occasional times when it's off in the bad ways and it really screws you over.
Yeah. The exact same scenario applies awesome, to scales in general. I think it's more so even potentially a more detrimental experience if you're using the scales. We've seen time and time again, the scales will dictate everything. Look, maybe we had an extra salty meal the night before, and not everyone realizes that the amount of sodium that you intake also correlates with the amount of water that you store on your body and your muscles. And then you weigh yourself the next day, oh, I'm a kilo heavier than I was a day ago. That's absolutely unacceptable. I need to not eat at all for the rest of the day. And we all know what happens when you don't eat for the rest of the day. You're more irritable. Your ability to function is diminishingly reduced. More stress, inability to cope with that stress management. If you're injured, you're healing less. You can't repair your muscles, and of course, losing muscle. We're not providing ourselves with that protein. Of course, within that 6 to 8 hour window where a protein availability is evident in our bloodstreams, it's a whole different ball bag where you're working actively against yourself in your weight management goals if you cut out an entire day's worth of food because the scale said so. Like, what's our plan here? What really is our goal? How are we going to move forward from this?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. And that's why, exactly. And that's why I think if you can, it's a really good argument for why you just need to be educated around if you're going to implement things that give you numbers, just be really educated as to that these numbers can be off, how they can be off. So like, for example, we can make a DEXA pretty accurate. If we do all the right things, do it at the same time of day, do it when we're very, hydrated, so like the same level of hydration every time. Do it when, a bunch of different factors we can line it up, probably similar amount of stress levels. So then it's pretty bloody accurate. And the exact same thing as the scales, right? We can wake up at the same time of day, go to the toilet beforehand, not have too much, have a similar amount of salt throughout the entire day, a similar amount of water throughout the entire day, etc., to give us a really good, accurate result. So I think, you made a really good point about education is key at the end of the day, and that these things like DEXAs and weighing yourself and your heart, your sleep monitoring, all just comes down to education. Would that be a fair summary?
I think so. I think also being aware of how to use that data. It's cool if we get it, and it's cool if it's accurate. But then how are we going to use it? It's like finding out that your car was a complete write-off, but just like slapping a fresh coat of paint on it and calling it a day and saying it's good to go down the road. Mate, it's totaled. It's done. It's finito. Just you got to call it what it is. How do you resolve that situation is, we repair the damage or we get a new car in the same scenario where if we get a reading on our scales for an extended period of time that is, let's say, not as favorable for our results and for our goals. We need to establish what is our approach. How do we adjust how we're going? What is our plan to move forward from this? The answer is not cut out an entire day of eating because that's not going to resolve the problem. The answer is make those small adjustments over time, reach your goals with realistic and achievable strategies, and then be able to continue and maintain those goals in that long term. From what I can tell, I can almost guarantee that nobody is really successful in cutting out an entire day's worth of food and water. Look, man, I've come across some pretty angry people in my life, and I can almost guarantee that none of them ate lunch.
You know what the first point of call could be for all this sort of stuff? If you just told them, hey, if you get something that seems a bit off, just jump on ChatGPT and just ask it. Ask it, hey, the scale was really high this morning. Why? And I've got pretty good confidence. I reckon ChatGPT would give a decent answer. Be like, look, could be a bunch of reasons. Sodium's probably the main reason. Water retention. Anyway, that's besides the point, Macho. Amazingly well said. I didn't even think of that whole thing with the watch, but yeah, completely agree with the watch thing. Let's go through. We are talking about the health 1%ers. Let's go through. We've written a few each of us have written a couple. I reckon you should take it away, Matt. Give me with your first health 1%er, and then I might even grill you if I don't think you can justify it either.
Sure, absolutely. Let's go through. I can't even remember if these are my notes or your notes. I like to make sure that I carry around water bottles with me. Is that one of my ones?
Yeah.
Okay,
so
cool.
Look, I guess for me, I think for me, what I think about is, I'll let you take the floor. Why
I would carry a water bottle?
Why?
I find that unless water is directly in front of my face, like it is with this podcast, I don't drink enough water. I will go the entire day. I'm like, feeling a bit parched. Probably should drink something. When was the last time I drank something? I've been stuck at either work or running around doing errands or spending time with family and friends and things like that. And oh shit, it's 1 o'clock now. I haven't even drunk anything apart from a small cup of tea in the morning. I need to drink some water. Unless that water's in front of me or around me, I notice that I don't drink enough. And with my estimate goals of 2.4 to 2.8-ish liters per day, it really does become quite difficult unless I'm spreading that out throughout the day. And of course, I'm not really tracking. I can see your brain ticking away there, Max. It's more so a feeling of, am I actually reaching my hydration goals? If the water's there and I'm thirsty, am I going to drink it? Am I going to feel like I'm hydrated? Generally, we're looking for a pretty, 45 to 65 mils per...
35 to 45. Yeah, so I was just calculating that. 45. So 4 times 70, 40 times 70 is 2.8. So you're 100% on the ball.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So basically you're saying, really love this one. I need more of a stronger justification. Love this idea of that carrying around the water bottle is a really nice, gentle reminder of like, hey, I'm here. Remember me. Yeah. I'm sippable kind of thing. Love that. That's a really good one. What's so important about it? Because specifically we are talking about health. Like we can talk about 1%ers in a bunch of different aspects. 1% is in your sleep, 1% is in your stress, 1% is to improve your bodybuilding and training and things like that. We're specifically talking about health for today. What is it about having more water that actually makes you that little bit healthier?
That's an absolutely great question, Max. So remind me, how much of the body is water? Are we looking at like a 75% plus situation? What was the last estimate?
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is muscle. My brain only works in muscle. I think there's actually only one organ. Conspiracy theory number 1 is there's actually only one organ in the body. It's just muscle.
I actually have a third bicep. It's in between my ears. It flexes every time I have to think hard.
So, all I know is muscles 87%. Yeah, probably 80-something percent, probably 77%.
Sure thing. So water in particular, and making sure that we have enough to maintain the current levels we have in the body, is extremely important from a blood pressure perspective, a kidney health perspective, a brain function perspective, our ability to detox our body. Hint, there's nothing that can detox your body except for fiber and water, by the way. You throw your lemon juice out. Our ability to provide ourselves with enough fluid in general to facilitate normal cellular functions, move things to where it needs to go, shuttle metabolites out of your muscles when you're performing exercises. It's very important that we're providing enough water to our body, especially when we're sweating, when we're breathing. By the way, you lose a ton of water just from breathing. If we don't provide that water, we eventually become dehydrated. Things tend to go wrong. Max, I saw your brain ticking. What's going on?
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty good justification. So, look, I would summarize from that one, the 2 big key things are probably going to be kidney health and blood pressure health and the implications that come from that. Matt, what are some, just a really quick ramble, less than 30 seconds, what are some implications if your blood pressure is off? What happens, man? What's going on from a health perspective?
Your heart is working incredibly hard. So in order to maintain the flow of nutrients around the body, your heart has to pump even harder, increasing your blood pressure. Your blood pressure means that there's more total force pushing things around And that total force can cause damage over time to especially our things called our arteries and arterial walls, things similar, and our heart. So atherosclerosis tend to be quite the increased risk if we have high blood pressure. Our kidneys are also quite delicate. Things that are delicate in nature, nerve endings, kidneys, heart artery walls from blood pressure tend to go pretty quickly, as well as an increased risk of stroke. So people don't really think about, oh, brain is up there. It needs a bit of blood, I guess, but like it's probably not that significant. It's hella significant, my guy. Like it uses a ton of energy and blood flow needs to go to it appropriately. If we reduce that blood flow, we increase the risk of multiple things going on, one of them being strokes.
Righto. Yeah, cool. Look, I can't push back about any of that stuff because I don't know it. So I'm just going to accept that everything you said was good. Then one thing I really want to touch on is that for people, if you're bodybuilder or someone inclined to strength training, this whole thing of staying hydrated is super important just from a performance perspective. But because we know that you cannot perform optimally if you're hydrated, that's just a must. You must be hydrated. But even if we put that really, really key variable aside and we talk about being hydrated from a health perspective, boy, we really need our kidneys to be a bodybuilder. That's just kind of like a thing. And look, I'm not going to speak about this too much because I'm not an expert on it. I have done a lot of reading. Both Matt and I have. We've done a lot of reading on kidney health and the impacts that protein intake has on kidney health. I'm going to encourage us both not to comment just because we don't really feel comfortable yet to make comments about that. But all I will say is that we definitely want healthy kidneys. And I'm not, that doesn't imply that protein necessarily degrades kidneys if you want to jump to those conclusions. But it also means that let's be doing things such as staying hydrated to ensure that we are helping our kidneys out. And staying hydrated does help our kidney health out. And if you might think, man, I don't really give a shit about my kidneys, whatever. What is it like? Kidney disease is like the third killer in the world or some shit. Is that right, Matt?
Something like that. Yeah, it tends to be a bit skewed because of the impact and relationship chronic kidney disease has on the other big three, being like stroke, heart attack, myocardial infarctions, things along those lines. And then it's cancer, also reported that they're the main things. Well, yeah, but chronic kidney disease and type 2 diabetes pretty much cause them. So look, we need to examine the situation for what it is. How are we actually getting to that position? Is it a couple of random factors? Some bloke walking down the street just had a random heart attack? Pretty rare from my perspective.
Yeah. So kidneys are super important, and these things do actually kill you. So it's not something there where it's like, oh man, like, because no one hears about kidney shit. Everyone always hears about cancer and heart attacks. Anyway, I think that's well said. Good point. Carry around your water bottle, people. For me, mine are very simple. I think mine are probably simpler than Matt's. Mine is drizzling olive oil on meals to increase both the antioxidant intake and your unsaturated fat intake. This is just super simple, guys. If you're using butters or other types of oils with your meals, just swap out for olive oil, man. Like, it's not that hard. I think maybe for people who aren't used to it, it kind of tastes a bit funky, I think. But the fact that there's millions or billions of people out there that consume it and aren't affected by it is testament to the fact that you can get used to it. Like, it's not that deep. I'm pretty sure being Italian, you're very used to it, Matto. You wouldn't even notice it.
I wake up in the morning, and the reason why I have a small cup of tea is because I have 3 shots of extra virgin olive oil before I start my day. I probably have to say that is a joke. I know that people would take that probably seriously. Actually, no, it is true. It is true to a certain extent.
That's true.
It's not 3. It's only 2. When we're talking about olive oil, we're specifically talking about extra virgin olive oil. It's really good for the hair. Not that I know, I'm half balding. So yeah, I tend to agree. Really great in total antioxidant properties. It's a great substitution if we're looking to improve our cardiovascular markers, such as our cholesterol and our bad, in quotation marks, LDL cholesterol. Generally provide some pretty good movement in terms of fixing those up. It's not going to be like the absolute best thing in the world. We are talking about 1%ers. It's probably a little bit bigger than 1%ers, to be honest. But small things that you can do to make large differences over time.
This is the whole thing, right? This is the whole thing of 1%ers, is that it makes it seem like it gives equally only 1% results. But I guess the amazing wonders of this is that it's only a 1% change for like a result that's massive. So it's like a 1% little change in your life, which will give you proportionally giant results. So that's the thing I love about them the most. Also, just to clarify for the audience, in case you're someone who's listening, super keen, you're watching Matt, you saw I did the quotations for the LDL cholesterol whilst he was saying it was bad. Just to really clarify for the audience, in case anyone's going, oh, are these guys conspiracy theorists? Do they love LDL? Do they want everyone's LDL to be super high? Do they love saturated fat? No, we don't love these things. Yeah, we essentially, we want to be really careful with our language. Both Matt and I are in complete agreement that we want to be. It's probably the only thing we've ever been on complete agreement on. That we want to be super careful with our language, and we don't want to. We both really believe words have meaning and words are important. And if we're using words like bad or good, or healthy or unhealthy, we know that comes along with a lot of negative connotations, and we don't want to be using those words just without sort of prefacing it by using the quotations that we're essentially just using that word because that's the best word we can think of at the time, without actually pausing the podcast and be like, hey man, what word could we discuss? So that's why he did that. We know that on a general sense of the word, having more saturated fat in your diet and having a higher LDL cholesterol markers are worse for negative health outcomes overall. But we also don't want to, we're probably not going to speak about it too much just because we aren't extreme experts in the field. Was that a decent summary, Matt?
I think so, Max. I think you've really pretty much summarized both our perspectives. By far, we're not experts in a lot of these aspects. We're more so just reporting on our understanding from the clinical literature and our experiences related to working in dietitian services, dietetics, hospital experience, and usually the associations that come from that scenario. It's very much a position of there's going to be outliers and exceptions to every single rule pretty much in life. LDL is potentially one of them. However, I'm more so suspicious that it's probably not.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sure. And you can have, the good thing about us is that we will tell you our personal opinion. We're also not going to let it impact how we view the literature or how we interpret literature. Matt can have his personal opinions. He could love LDL. He could be sipping on LDL every single day of the week. But when he's with his clients and when he's doing his professional practice, he will be abiding by what the literature recommends. Yeah, he'll be guided by literature, and that's what he'll think. So everyone can have their own personal opinions. We love personal opinions, but at the end of the day, as dietitians, we're guided by the literature, and that's all that matters to us. So at the moment, what the literature indicates is that it's bad. And
quotations,
and you should definitely, you should definitely decrease it. So we will abide by that. So yeah, in defense of my olive oil, Matt didn't grill me too hard on it because he agrees with it, but the unsaturated fats are a really good way to try and increase your HDL, which is your healthy cholesterol. And the antioxidants are amazing for reducing oxidative stress, which is important for a whole bunch of different things in the body. And that might be something we get into later down the line in another cast. Matto, can you please take us through your second one?
Absolutely. So I had one which I was going to have a chat about, more so with meal timing, things along those lines. I think personally for me, something that's come up recently is I actually have to book in my own lunch times to ensure that I'm eating lunch, which I never thought was going to be a thing. Starting this business with you, Max, and then working along some very talented allied health professionals has been quite the distracting day. Everything's very go, go, go all the time. I'm having to actually book in my own lunchtime to ensure that I'm getting the food that I need to fuel my body. If I don't, things tend to go pretty negative. My productivity goes down, my concentration goes out the wazoo, my irritability goes up. Generally, people stay even further away from me. Usually, they just stay away from me because I'm quite smelly as a person. However, this time it's more so my personality in general. It tends to be something that I have a little bit struggled with, and booking in even a half an hour block where I cannot have any other activities going on. I have to sit down and eat and pause for a little bit, refresh my memory, calm down, even potentially have like a 2-minute meditation kind of thing. Really resets me for that rest of the day. And I can keep going and pushing and persevering, being productive, not wasting my time.
I completely disagree. Guys, quick ad break. We are currently taking on clients. Click the first link in the description to explore more. Back to it.
Ooh, interesting. Go on.
I just said that for the ad. Whoops. My bad.
I like that. That was good.
Mean. I'm just gonna I'll clip the ad right after that.
Beautiful.
No, that's I love it, man. That's good stuff. Yeah. That's exactly what you need to be doing. Is that you need to be really good at identifying. I think the skill with all this, and this probably this number one skill that if you're someone who's like, and I'm more than happy for people to be like this. If you're someone who's like, at the end of the day, we obviously just ran an ad just then. So we want people to sign up to us. We want clients, all that sort of stuff. We love that shit. But if you're a person who can't afford it, if you're unable to do it, and you just are relying on podcasts and free information, we're here for it as well. And I know Matt would be in agreement with that too. And the biggest thing that I could say, the biggest game changer would be being brutally honest with yourself. That's the number one thing of like identifying problems and coming with an honest solution for that problem. And Matt did that perfectly just then. The problem was very clear. I'm not having lunch throughout the day. This is impacting me negatively. And it seems so obvious, it's always obvious, this stuff. And the obvious solution is I need to book out time. Yeah. Now, practically, that actually might work out quite difficult in that Matt's an extremely hard worker. He's not going to be able to find a gap in his day, especially if things run over time, which they always do. So it'll work out more difficult in a practical setting, but the problem and solution has been identified, and he's done that really well. So really, really love what you said just then about that overall. I think that's a really good theme that will probably be talked about throughout pretty much every cast, I reckon, Matt.
I would say so, yeah. I think it's really important to note, Max, as well, that it's important to be honest with yourself, brutally honest with yourself. However, brutal honesty and over negativity and pessimism is not the same thing. You need to be...
Yeah, exactly.
Ensure that you are honest, and honest, not biased. I think it's very difficult. Yeah. We're absolutely biased towards each other. Oh, I missed lunch. My day's ruined. I can't talk to anyone for the rest of the day. My progress in the gym's gone. Like, it's just over. I'm gonna pack my bags and move to Hawaii. Like, come on. No, you just book in your lunches.
Because I was clapping. But yes, that was perfect. This has been an iconic cast. This could be our best one ever.
Potentially.
Till the end of time. So agree. Firstly, honesty is not pessimism. Honesty is objectivism. Whatever the in between of optimism and pessimism is, it's just reality. So honesty is not letting your emotions get the best of you. I know it's super hard, and that's why I use people like Matt. I use friends, people who I trust, my girlfriend, things like that. For when I know I'm emotional, when I can't make a decision based on myself because my emotions are letting me get in the way, I'll rely on them. I have people I trust. I have people close to me that I can go, hey, blah, 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 blah. I need an honest answer. Yeah, because Matt's so far removed from me. He doesn't even care about me. Of course he's going to be able to give me an objective answer. Yeah. So it's super easy for him to be like, no. So yes, I completely agree. What was the last thing you said? Was it, yes, and about the Hawaii thing. This is one of my favorite ranting points, is that everyone in nutrition, it's crazy. It's crazy how this world works, that they just give up. You'll do something bad for the day. You'll have a cookie, and then whoops, fuck it. The rest of the day, I'm ordering 10 pizzas. Who gives a shit? And it's like, hold on. Where did that come from? Just restart. Continue back on the... Like, you need to have a mind that... And I'm awful at this. I'm so bad in that if I do fuck up once, it's like the end of the world and I have a little tantrum because I have such high, so strict rules for myself. But... this is one of those things of like, do as I say, not as I do. If you stuff up, if you have a donut or pie or whatever it is, dude, just move on and you're back on the horse straight away. You're not, oh, now I've ruined it. Okay, let's write off the rest of the day and I'll start back tomorrow. No, you start back right now, right this second. Even if you're halfway through the pie, you're like, I should not have done that. Stop. You know? So yeah, I thought that was awesome, man. Everything you're saying is absolute gems. Point number 2 from me, or you got anything else to say?
Just a quick comment on the pie. You can absolutely have a pie if it's within your goals and within your plan. It's important to acknowledge
everything if it's within your goals.
Absolutely.
This is the best thing about nutrition. This is the best thing about knowledge, is that you don't need to be scared. You You don't need to be scared. You can
It should
just
empower you.
You feel exactly. That's what I was talking to my girlfriend about. She was like, "Oh, do you remember the day you found out about calories?" And I was like, "Nah, I actually don't." Because both her and I, we share this funny thing of that we both thought fat was going to make us fat. So up until I was like, I don't know, maybe like, I don't know what age, probably early teenagers, I thought if I didn't eat any fat, I couldn't get fat. It was impossible. So, because I didn't know calories existed. And she was like, do you remember the day you found out about calories? So I was like, no, I don't. She was like, yeah, that was the worst day of my life. And I was like, what? How could that be? She was like, yeah, because that's when I like realized, and I can't remember what she said. Should have listened to her better, I guess. But I know she listens to this podcast, so she can't be upset at me. But for me, it's the best day of my life because it was like, now I'm empowered. Now I know. Now I know the information and I can figure it out. And the exact same with nutrition, of just what you were saying. You can eat a Big Mac every day if you want, man. Go for it. You know? So 100% agree. Matt, you're a gem boy. You've triggered. I feel like you've got all my. Well, I know what Matt's done. He's been studying me over his last 6 years I've known him. What are Max's ranty trigger points? And he's literally just banged out every single one. So my second point: have frozen berries in the freezer for some extra fruit. It's probably more specific to me personally, but I would say having frozen either fruit or vegetables is going to be really important, just from a point of view of that you want to be, how do I put it? You want to be making sure that you're getting enough fruits and vegetables into you every day. And it can be kind of difficult to keep that up, yeah? Especially if you're someone who does a weekly shop, or if you don't get to go to the shops often, or something happens so that you can't get to go to the shops for a few days. Having that supply in the freezer is going to be key. And that's all it really is. We know I don't need to justify why having fruits and vegetables is important. Otherwise, we'd be in primary school or in kinder. We know it's important. And essentially, this is a really good way to ensure that you're consistently having them without there being, when things happen, because things will arise, yeah? That just is inevitably of being a human and living in the world. When things happen, instead of being not prepared, you're prepared. That's my second point.
I love that one, Max.
Anything to say on that one?
I would love to piggyback onto that. So one point that I've written down for myself personally is have backup meals, backup plans in place. So in the same sense that you like to have frozen fruit available, I also like to have frozen meals and or snacks and or fruit or veg just available in general. If I know that I'm going to be going out later that night or something similar, and I'm not going to be hitting my vegetable targets, I'm a bit neurotic and I'd like to have some veg for lunch just because I feel like it makes me feel better and I feel comforted in knowing that I'm working towards my goals of long-term health. And of course, being able to balance everything is extremely important. If I am in a situation where I'm super busy, I have almost not reached my little block of time on my calendar for my lunch. Shit, man, I gotta get something to eat really quickly. What can I have? I'll go into the fridge. Hopefully in the past 2 weeks or so, I've made a small burrito or something, chuck that in the freezer, and then I'm able to heat that up or chuck it in the sandwich press or something similar and work towards that. Even if in a massive pinch, we can get on the topic of plastics in a minute or maybe potentially another 3 cast time when we're researching that. Even in a pinch, I think that frozen meals and things similar, prepackaged meals can be quite useful if you heat them up in a ceramic and or glass bowl and not in the plastic.
Yeah, man. Yeah. 100% agree. Is that this is about being prepared, and that's the difference, right? There's going to be, if you, I shouldn't say that. Absolutely. It's great. It's great being prepared, and rather than being ignorant to the fact that things are going to go wrong, you can just be like, look, I'm going to be honest. Things are going to go wrong one day. They're probably going to go wrong sooner than what I think. So let's prepare for it. While I'm at the shops now, let's get an extra couple of frozen meals. Let's get an extra couple of frozen bags of fruit and veg. Let's get some, I can see you've written down here, emergency snacks and bars. Amazing. Yeah. Amazing things that when you need to have food, too busy to cook it, too tired to cook it's an amazing one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like if you're too tired, what do you reckon you're going to opt for when you're too tired? Usually ice creams, order some Uber Eats, order some other shit, go to the cupboard and grab some chocolate, something like that. Dude, if you've got actually options there that aren't ice cream and chocolate, boy, you're laughing. And that's the biggest thing.
Absolutely.
Matt, the last thing I have is just similar to my first one. Just having a handful of nuts or having nuts around or having a handful of nuts every day is going to be a really good option. Just a really good source of unsaturated fats, which are good for your heart health and other aspects of your cholesterol health. And yeah, having that is going to be a really good tool.
Absolutely. I absolutely love nuts. I think it was maybe third year uni when I realized, it's not just because they're anti-inflammatory properties, like the actual fats from the omega-3s and additional polyunsaturated fats in nuts and in your fatty marine fish actually insert themselves into your arterial walls, making them more flexible. That blew my mind
Cool.
in the same way that calories blew my mind. I'm like, wow, that is such important information to know. I am now motivated to consume these amazing items to improve my long-term health because I understand how exactly it plays a factor in. And of course, exactly like you mentioned, having them around, having them available as a snack or something similar, setting yourself up for success. Extremely important.
That was perfect. Setting yourself up for success. That was the whole of today, right?
Pretty
That
much.
was most of our points. Just planning, preparation, setting ourselves up for success. Completely agree. I've got two things to say. Firstly, I'm going to say it's the most important, even though it's not. FYI, I actually do not give a shit. I think I deleted it, my sleep stuff on my phone. All the data stuff I deleted because I don't want to know. Don't tell me about it. So that's just FYI matter for you.
I don't own scales myself.
Was that an Instagram post?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, nice. That's cool. Now the second thing is Matt was an absolute darling and his file got corrupted the last time we recorded this podcast. So we really love him so much for that.
Many apologies.
I actually did a little bit of I think this cast was incredible. So
it was really good.
I think we should do this every time. You should corrupt your video every time. But besides the point, I actually did a really good end to the cast. We did do, because my end isn't corrupted. So I did a bit of a rant. It's I'd say maybe a 2-minute rant or so, just explaining why. It's explaining the importance of if you are someone like me, you care about bodybuilding, you don't give a shit about your health. Look, you care about it, but bodybuilding is priority. Yep. Bodybuilding is priority number 1. Things underneath that are priority number 2 for your body. And so you think, okay, well, I don't really care about my health. I've got a little rant for you to sort of hopefully open your eyes and open your mind as to why health actually is important. And I'll be inserting that right after this clip. But other than that, Matt and I will be saying goodbye and we'll leave you with the outro.
See you, everyone. Thank you.
Now, I kind of want to do this rant about health as to why it's important. This probably won't be the first time I do this rant. So I think I'll do it. I'll make it short because it will come up again as to why health is important for bodybuilders. And it's a very quick one in the sense that we know how important, if you are into bodybuilding, if you are into sports performance, any sort of sphere where you care about your performance and your athletic abilities, we know how important consistency is and staying consistent, doing it day in, day out, beating a competition. If you know, for example, if you're like, let's say you're the silver medalist or the gold medalist at some event at 100 meters, and you know your competition is sick, boy, are you like, fuck yes, I've got an extra week on you, you know? It's like, I've got an extra week on you. I've got an extra month on you, yeah, because I've been able to train while you're sick. And it's the exact same thing with this, yeah? If you're sick, if you're, having to go to the doctors a lot or anything, you are taking time away, crucial time away from achieving your goals. And that is health. That is what health is. Health is making sure that your immune system is strong, that you are doing everything you can be to not miss days. And health is such a big element of it. So don't glaze over when you talk about the health stuff. Don't think it's not important, because trust me, this is so overlooked in the spheres of sports stuff. This is such a neglected element. If you're doing these things, if you're actually considering this stuff, you have a massive advantage over your competition. So that's all I would say for my rant.
Thank you so much for listening to the Real Health and Nutrition podcast. The sponsor of today's show is you. You support this show by listening and using our services of dietitian consultations and performance coaching. We offer in-depth one-on-one consultations to help you achieve your health and performance goals. Any random bloke online can give you a generic meal plan where we here at R.E.A.L work collaboratively with you to reach your goals, making you feel heard and including you in your journey's planning. Our service offers tailored advice and can accompany meal plans and or realistic nutrition strategies, which can be booked via our website, www.recoveryexerciseandlifestyle.com. That's www.recoveryexerciseandlifestyle.com. Just a quick disclaimer, this podcast is for education, information, and general entertainment purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medical nutrition therapy or healthcare of any discipline. The content discussed in this podcast is not intended to be a substitute of professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please review our terms of use via our website. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.